Hello mga ka-AOK. Usapang AOK ho tayo ulit ngayong buwan na to. Dito sa AOK Pilipinas, magkukwentuhan tayo tungkol sa mga tanong na mahalagang pag-usapan bilang mga pamilya, mga kaibigan at isang komunidad. Mga usapang nagbibigay ng kaalaman, pag-asa at inspirasyon. Ang bilis ho talaga ng panahon, no? Parang kailan lang mga parents like you lumalapat sa ASP ang mga tanong, ano po ba yung autism? Ano po ba ang dapat naming gawin? No? Paano po matutulungan mga anak namin? Eh ngayon, mga adults na yung mga batang yon. May mga nagtatrabaho na, may nagnenegosyo, may mga artists, mga athletes, performers, at gaya nating lahat, tatanda rin sila. Oy. Sa totoo lang, ito ang isa sa mga tanong na bihira nating pag-usapan bilang mga pamilya, di ba? Ano kaya ang magiging buhay ng ating mahal sa buhay kapag senior na sila? Ayan. Okay? At paano natin sila matutulungang tumanda ng malusog, ng may dignidad, at may mga taong patuloy na nagmamahal at sumusuporta sa kanila? At paano kung may mga changes kasabay ng pagtanda, gaya ng dementia? Hindi ko nga naisip yun. Ano? Oo nga pala, pwede rin silang magkaroon ng dementia. So ang usapan po natin today ay hindi para matakot tayo, kundi para mas maintindihan at mas mapaghandaan. Kaya ngayong episode, pag-uusapan natin ang tanong na, paano na pag senior na? Welcome to AOK Pilipinas. At syempre po, hindi ako nag-iisa para sa napakagandang usapang ito. Kasama ko ngayon ang isa sa pinakamasayahin nating chapter leaders mula sa ASP Cebu, ang proud mommy ng 28-year-old Calvin, a young man on the autism spectrum na currently employed through ASP's Autism Works initiative. Mami Babylin, welcome to AOK Pilipinas.
Thank you po, Mami Dang, and I'm very happy to be here with AOK Pilipinas na naman. Very excited with the topic today. You know, Mami Dang, parang this is not something that is really being mentioned among the families. Usually the questions are about therapy, school, work. Pero now, parang it's different na. This is really important. That's why I'm very excited that we'll be learning a lot today.
Truly, Mami Babylin. But before we go to our talk, kumusta naman yung anak mo si Calvin? Sabi mo nagkasakit kagabi.
Thank God for the prayers and the concern. He's okay na po. He's not having fever na. He's eating na okay. And as we speak, he's on his way to Mass na po. Thank you po.
Oh, 28 years old pa lang naman si Calvin. Hindi pa yan hindi
Yes,
pa yan
yes. Still a long way, but he'll get there. One day, he'll get there.
Oo.
Yes,
Mami Babylin, proud na proud ang ASP family sa Cebu, ha? Sa Cebu chapter. Lalo na yung ginawa niyo for Angels Walk last April. At, naku, baka naman next year, nasa new SM Arena Cebu na kayo. O, di ba?
No pressure lang, please. We'll just try our best po. As we always do, try our best. Thank you po.
Yes. And Mami Babylin, bago mo acknowledge ang ating ang ating mga partners, no? May confession po kami, full English po tayo during the Q&A kahit na nosebleed tayo. Mami Babylin.
Yes. Okay. So, Mami Dang, before we begin, we'd like to thank the organizations that continue to journey with Autism Society Philippines in bringing AOK Pilipinas to Filipino families everywhere. Maraming salamat sa the Philippine Society of Developmental and Behavioral Pediatrics, the Neuroscience Division of the Philippine Children's Medical Center, the Ateneo Autism Study Group, and Smart Parenting. Thank you po for helping us create conversations that inform, encourage, and bring hope to so many families.
Salamat po. And now, mga ka-AOK, I will switch to English. Bahala na si Batman. Okay? Today's conversation is a very special one because many of us have quietly wondered, sabi nga natin, what will happen when our loved ones on the autism spectrum grow older. And so to help us understand this important topic, we are honored to welcome someone who has dedicated his career to caring for adults with developmental disabilities as they age. I will skip on. I will skip on all his accomplishments, all his titles, being an internationally recognized neurologist, educator, and advocate specializing in aging, dementia, and developmental disabilities. Because, more importantly, he has spent many years listening to families, caring for adults, and helping communities better understand how people with developmental disabilities can age with dignity, purpose, and the right support. Dr. Seth Keller, welcome to AOK Pilipinas.
Thank you. It's an honor being here, and I definitely appreciate so much for the Autism Society of the Philippines and all the families in the Philippines that I'm speaking to today. So thank you, and I'm honored.
Yeah. Dr. Seth, may we call you Dr. Seth? Okay. What time is it there? Right there in New Jersey.
It's after 10 p.m. I'm in the eastern part of the United States, an hour and a half south of New York City, 3 hours above Washington, D.C., not far from my home where I grew up.
Yes,
Okay.
and Mommy Babylin, that's how much
Yes.
Dr. Seth care for us. So he's even willing to do this interview late.
Yes. Thank you
This
so
is
much.
nothing. This is easy. I can stay with you all night.
Oh, okay. That's great to hear.
You
Thanks,
got me.
Dr. Seth. Yes. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
Doc, I think many of our viewers may not realize that we still don't have many specialists focusing on aging and dementia among persons with developmental disabilities. So we're truly, truly, truly grateful that you're sharing your knowledge with us and with the millions of Filipino families today who are listening to us.
Yes.
Yes. And
Yeah,
Doc, like
it's not alone in the Philippines. It's really like this across the world.
right, right. But now I realize, yes, Gio is already 32. Calvin is 28. And we have
Indeed.
some here, I think, on their 50s. And I know of somebody in his 60s. So there's one thing I would like our viewers to know, that today's episode is not about making people afraid of aging, like we mentioned a while ago. It's about helping families prepare, understand, and look forward to the future with hope, with or without us in that future. Right, Dr. Keller?
Absolutely. That is very true.
Okay, so let's begin our conversation. And Doc, now when people hear the word autism, they usually picture children. Huh? But
Yes,
today,
that's right.
yes, today, like I said, no, a lot of them are already really approaching. Some of them are already approaching 60, our senior age here in the Philippines. Now they're growing up, they're building careers, they have some of them are developing friendships and living much longer lives. Okay, so how is the conversation now around autism changing now that we're beginning to think about not just adulthood, but senior years?
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting is that it's really about people are living longer than ever before, whether it's in the Philippines or other areas or aspects of the world. And autism is a lifelong situation for people. So when you're born with autism, you're always going to have autism. So it doesn't really change in terms of who you are as a person. You're always there. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't really go away. So it is really recognition that autism is autism throughout one's life. I mean, I think really what it is, it's recognizing that since people are really living a lot longer now than ever before, that it is becoming more prominent. It's really the matter of the aging population in many societies and cultures, that there's more older people around. And when there's more older people around, you're going to have more older people around that have autism and other form of developmental disabilities. And even in the population of people that we all know now, or even in the Philippines or other parts of the world, they're there. They're living in our society now, and the numbers of people that have autism now that are older now anyway, that you mentioned them yourself, they're out there. And it sometimes is all a matter of that maybe when they were younger, maybe perhaps they weren't even recognized as being autistic. that is very possible that there's a different definition of autism. So even thinking about the statistics and the number of autism that's growing, which is probably higher, but it's also partly related to the fact that it's just more recognized more now. But you're going to see more people that are living longer with autism, and it's really a celebration. In fact, the fear that kind of mentioned, we're feared and concerned about aging, and we're going to talk about dementia. It's really a celebration. We should actually be thrilled that all of us, including those with autism, are living longer and really can basically take advantage of the same thing that we all hope in our lives: be well, be happy, enjoy our communications and our relationships. It's really like that too. It really is.
No, that's such a happy perspective, because I remember when we were still starting in our journey, some parents would even wish that their children would go before them because they're so worried about who will take care of them, no? But really,
Yes.
like you said, it's actually something worth celebrating that they will
Yes.
have long life.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, I think turning to a scare factor is a happy thing. And I was just giving a speech the other day in Washington, D.C. just this past week, and it was basically to a community. I speak to many, many, many people in the community, families and organizations that support them in housing and employment and work and everything that we all should be part of. Fun, entertainment. We should all be happy, but also recognizing that aging does come with some of the difficult complications that a lot of older people get to. I turned 65 years old coming up in September, so I'm relating to aging into my own self. So we're all, and I'm sure all of us can relate to people, our families and friends that are getting older who have lived long lives. Aging does come, and so it's going to be happening the same thing with people with autism.
Very true, very true. That's
You can't run
reality,
away
Doc.
from it, can you?
Very true. And as
Part of life.
parents, yes, we spend so many years helping our children prepare for adulthood. Maybe it's also time for us to prepare for the next stage of life with hope and not fear.
And celebrating.
And
Definitely.
celebrating, correct? And
Yeah,
celebrating.
I know, and the one thing that again I've never been to the Philippines, and God willing, I'll come to the Philippines. Is that what I really learned about the Filipino people? And I definitely have great friends that are Filipino American very much. And even when I was living in Okinawa, Japan, I was in the United States Navy. There was a lot of people that had been in the military before that were from the Philippines, and I've really began to really understand a lot about the richness of the Filipino culture. And I want to make sure I don't mess the term up. Bayanihan, the recognition that the strength of the community, to be around us as people, live in a community, no strings attached. You're doing it for love and caring, not because you're obligated to do it or getting paid to do it. It's really just the nature of the society. And I think that's such a rich thing to embrace, that I'm thinking about to say, God bless the Filipino community, because that's really great. As we get older, we would want, obviously, to have the community of supports around you to all be there to help us throughout life, and especially when we get older and might need more help.
That's true. That's true. Oh, thank you so much for saying that about the Filipinos. We're touched. We're really touched. So now, Doc, let's talk about normal aging. As
Yes.
autistic adults grow older, what changes are simply part of getting older, just like everyone else? And what are the signs that families should pay a little closer attention to?
Well, I can just point to myself, basically. I mean, and I'm not trying to be too funny about it, but really the same thing that happened with people with autism, it's the same with everyone. Your skin, your hearing, your vision, your bones. I mean, I like to do a checklist of all the fun things that I've been experiencing myself. I could pull my hearing aid right out and show you, oh, this is entertaining, but it's a reality that life does have these practical changes that happen to all of us, and it'll come as absolutely no surprise for the audience of what aging has. You may not like to admit to it and such like that, but it's all a matter of getting older, recognizing it, and those with autism also, but also recognizing with age does come these health issues that many of us appreciate.
Well, that's very reassuring to hear because sometimes, especially for the parents, every little change can become a source of worry.
But maybe by the time they're senior, we are more relaxed in terms of seeing those changes. But that's a very important
Or
reminder,
the
Doc.
Filipino culture,
Yes.
are they worrying people? Is your culture very worried about?
Yes, and I agree, Dr. Seth. Growing older doesn't automatically mean something.
No,
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 well,
not at
Yeah.
all.
I'm
Yeah.
70 and I'm enjoying life. Okay, so
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
changes are simply part of life, no? And
Yes,
knowing
yes,
the difference can help families worry less, no? And
yes,
respond better when something really does need attention. No? So,
yes,
Doc, okay, I think this is interesting. No? One word that often worries families is dementia. My
yes.
mom had dementia before she passed away. No? And many of us hear that word and immediately become anxious. So, is there actually a higher risk of dementia among persons on the spectrum? Or is this still something researchers are trying to better understand?
Well, thank you very much. It's definitely a reality that with many health conditions, the aging brain, including dementia, it does go up in older people. And just personally, for me myself, my mother also had dementia. She had Parkinson's dementia. So for me,
Oh,
besides professionally and personally, it's very near and dear to my heart what I do. And I'm a dementia specialist. So in the work I do in the United States and actually around the world is speak about aging. And the thing which is I want everyone to appreciate in terms of the question about are people with autism at higher risk of getting
yeah.
dementia? There really isn't a lot of data that supports the truth that that's the fact. And the thing about it, and I think this is important to appreciate, I'm speaking to you all here about autism when you're living your lives in the autism community. One person with autism isn't the same as another person with autism. And so really what it really means is what causes autism, and can you really honestly compare from one person with autism to another person with autism? And it really is related to the underlying cause of the autism. So one person with autism could be caused by genetic conditions such as like Fragile X or Down syndrome or some nondescript condition that they may not know. So it's really very difficult and almost impossible to make a blanket statement that all people are higher risk or they may get it. What I would really say is that people with autism are living longer like anyone else, and because of that, they are also at an increased risk of getting dementia too. And dementia is a somewhat of a slowly progressive condition that isn't one simple a change of way they think. It's really a progression of signs of things that you and everyone else would recognize over the course of time. So the key thing about dementia is knowing the person, obviously who they are, what were they able to do in their function and their activity, daily living, and then as they get older, and we're talking older, I'm talking about in their maybe 50s, 60s, or 70s. I'm not talking about a 20-year-old or 30-year-old or 40-year-old. I'm really talking about a much older population because that's really when age-related, what are called degenerative disorders of the brain really begin to happen. It's very unusual to have anyone to have a dementia type of condition. The only time it's really more prevalent in the developmental population are those with Down syndrome. Down syndrome has a high risk of getting what's called early onset Alzheimer's, which is basically in the late 40s or 50s, but that's a genetic change within people with Down syndrome. But autism into itself, we're doing research on it. We're looking at it. We're going to track it over time to be certain about it. But right now, I would definitely not say that for certain at all that people with autism are at higher risk. But it is important to have these conversations to talk about it. They're living longer and they can get any health problem like anybody else.
Mm. Doc said, I'd like to add this no, it just occurred to me because my son Gio is considered level 3. He will be needing maximum support throughout his life. So I, uh, I was imagining that the changes, if ever, I hope not, he gets dementia, the changes may be more subtle than when it happens with somebody,
Yes. Yeah.
right, who are
Well,
considered.
dang, that's actually the problem is because it's very indolent or subtle, and it can be subtle for such a time over time. So if there's a subtle change and it's not a dramatic change, it could go on and on and on for years and years and years. Then you say 5, 10 years later, boy, that person's really different than they used to be 5 or 10 before. And that's sometimes really the problem, truthfully, in the developmental population autism, to see it, because these things often happen slowly. People with Down syndrome, I keep relating back to people with Down syndrome, that happens a lot earlier and a lot quicker. A lot quicker. It can happen not in, when I say quicker, it's all relative. Maybe in the course of several years, it happens like, oh my goodness, there's a real change that happens within a year or so. But that's typically not what happens in most people. Most people with dementias, it's not a quick thing at all. If anything happens suddenly within a day or two or a week or so, that the likelihood of that being dementia is not. That could be some kind of other medical condition or social situation. And I think what's also important to think about, what also could be a change. Just because someone's changing doesn't mean it's actually abnormal. It could be normal aging, but there's a whole bunch of problems that can happen. Social issues. So just say the individual is not happy. They're not liking their social situation. They're not able to adapt to change in their home or environment or work. And their change of their personality or behavior might react. So the reaction to the social situation might say, oh my gosh, they're changing. It's dementia, dementia, dementia. And to step back and say, what's going on in their life? What has been happening to them? And that's really vital.
Mommy Babylin, I think
Yes.
what we should do is to really train our other children and family members to observe, no, even when they're already very old, like what we're
Yes.
doing now. That they,
The
no?
subtle changes that Doc Seth mentioned. Now, Doc, because autism itself may affect communication, memory, or routines, we were kind of just talking about this. How can
Right.
families recognize when something more serious like dementia might be developing? This is interesting.
Well, they certainly know their loved one. They know how they already communicate anyway. They certainly, since birth, they already know how they talk, communicate or not, and they know them. They know them, and that's everything. And when they know them, which is really important for them and for us, is as they're getting older, they start seeing change. And it's those changes that they look at and they say, why is this person different? And it's not a one-time change, it's a pattern of change. So when these changes happen, you see more and more of these changes, of a pattern of change over time. That's when the concern would be to alert maybe a healthcare provider like a doctor or such to recognize and say, I'm bringing my loved one in. There are certain changes to them. Because truthfully, as the doctor, and again, we already mentioned at the beginning, there's not a lot of experts out there. How is the doctor going to know there's a change? Or how is the doctor going to know there's a problem? It's all based on what you tell them. So it's really important to get the baseline importance of who this person is. And when you're going in to see a doctor who truthfully in the United States or the Philippines or other parts of the world who doesn't have a lot of education and training in this population, how are they going to know? And it's really good. They're going to know because of what you tell them. You're going to tell them that they're changing, and you would hope that the doctor, this is the hope part, that the doctor takes your recognition of these changes seriously, and then they do an investigation with testing to find out why. But in many cases, the change might be what you're recognizing. Oh, they changed their school, they changed their work, they're changing their life, and they're reacting to it. And their sleeping patterns different, or they're on different medications, or sleep patterns challenging. So really, to me, what's really very important to help understand change is honestly the family members and caregivers, I think, have the most important place to play in helping us health professionals to know if the change is significant or not, or recognizing if it's even a dementia.
Okay. Well, thanks, Doc. That's really nice. And I think because it's the family members and the caregivers who will be living with our kids on the spectrum, or on the adults with the spectrum, they must be very, very observant. They must not take for granted the little changes, because the little changes might mean a lot already. It might be giving us clues already. So, but
Yes.
thank you so much for telling us that the changes can happen over time. So again, like Mami Dang mentioned earlier, Gio being on level 3, and so there might be memory issues that might be part of him already, right, Mami Dang? So when we really know that it's already something different and not just his usual, lapses with memory and stuff like that. So that really helps when we just start getting all this data, and regardless if it's important or not for the doctor, we just present it to them so that the sooner that it can be addressed, the better. Correct, Doc?
Yeah, and one thing that's lacking and one thing that's challenging is that because it's a narrative, you're describing it, you see it, is to be as objective as possible. What changes really happen? What black and white? What change are you really talking about, and how do you measure that change?
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the lapses or gaps that we probably have in our system of care, of having what I'll call an assessment tool, some kind of fill out paperwork or something that does describe the change that the person's happening. I'm the president of the organization in the United States called the National Task Group on Intellectual Disabilities and Dementia Practices. And I'm bringing it up only because we have a tool called the EDSD, the Early Detection Screen of Dementia. And what it is, it's a piece of paper basically filled out by caregivers who are then filling out information on their loved one as they're getting older, starting, say, around maybe 50 years old, perhaps, and someone with autism. And every year, and they fill out this form once a year, every year, and it's basically tracking their activity of daily living. How well can my son or daughter or someone I care for be able to complete a certain activity of daily living task, a chore, an activity? And we recognize that tool in particular. It's actually used around the world in different countries to help track developmental disabilities and autism. And we recommend it probably in someone with autism beginning around age 50. I can send you the link. It's on our website, called the EDSD. It's an objective tool. It doesn't diagnose dementia. All it really does, it recognizes that, yes, changes really happen from one year to the next.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Seth. I was about to ask you. I was about to ask you to share us that tool, no? And Mommy Babylin, if you remember, Mommy Babylin was also with the school, no? When they were young, we were monitoring how they're acquiring new skills and in terms of behaving. So this means that every family, no, even when our children are already adults and seniors, we have to continue observing how they were before, what has changed, when did the change begin, like Dr. Seth said. Okay, so Doc, let's move now from understanding to action. Okay, so one thing I love about today's conversation with you is that we're not simply talking about problems. We're talking about possibilities. So here's the question many families would probably ask. Is there anything we can start doing today to help support healthy brain aging, if there's such a thing, for our loved ones on the autism spectrum?
Oh, definitely. Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt. And really what it is, I hate to use the word common sense. There's actually a lot of common sense approaches truly that everyone, I mean, we can talk with people with autism, but every single human being on the planet, from the time they're born throughout their life, which is important for brain health. And it's the same thing with autism. So what would they possibly be? Sleeping well, being happy, taking care of underlying health issues that can contribute to brain problems, such as heavy alcohol usage is not healthy for the brain, having head injuries, that's not a good thing, having concussion, that's not really good. So brain health and safety is important from that regard. But definitely emotional problems is very important to make sure that we're happy and we feel secure in our environment, having good vision, having good hearing. All those things actually are very important for brain health. So I'll just use an example of, like, why is vision and hearing relevant to brain health? And I'll just use as an example. So if you are hard of hearing, it really is like a strain on your mind when you're trying to hear things, because you're struggling, and that strain or struggle also uses up energy of your brain, and that's not a healthy thing. And it doesn't really help people who are somewhat forgetful when they're not hearing things in their environment. Sleep issues is very important. Sleep apnea, which is a particular condition which presents as snoring and lapse of breathing. That's not good with lack of oxygen to the brain. Healthy eating, the type of food that we eat. We have to watch our salt intake. We have to watch our protein intake. And they actually had done a study, which is very important for me to bring up. It's called the Finger Study. FINGERS. The FI is from Finland. And what they did several years ago, they did a study on healthy aging, on what can a society and community do to help people to avoid cognitive decline or dementia. So what they did is they took this is not developmental disability, this is not autism, but it could be just the same for that population. They took half of people age 65 in Finland, and they gave them all these good stuff: the good diet, the good exercise, the good eating, the health and wellness for their medical problem. Then the other half of people, they said almost like, good luck to you. I'm being funny, but that's kind of how it was. And over a course of time, they followed their cognitive functioning, how and they used different tests, and they showed it matters. So it really did show it matters. And they turned that study into what's called the worldwide finger study. And it was 9 different countries around the world that took it upon themselves to do their own unique type of program, because there are cultural differences, as obviously everyone can relate to. In your country, in the Philippines, what's socially or culturally relevant to a good diet or exercise, and it might be different in the other countries like that were done, like in Australia or in Europe or in the United States. And the one that came out in the United States was called the U.S. Pointer Study. In the U.S. Pointer Study, data was published just a year before, and guess what it showed? The same thing. It showed, guess what? It matters. So there's facts, there's research that shows it's not a fait accompli. It's not like everyone's going to get dementia. It doesn't mean we're powerless. It's in our control. There's parts of it in our control. There's parts of it we can do things, not waiting till we're older, but it's important for lifespan to recognize we should all be well and healthy because we want to live longer, be healthy. It's a common sense approach.
Okay. So mommies and daddies, pareho lang, okay? What we're doing to ourselves, the others for health, pareho lang for our children on the spectrum. So Doc Seth said that it begins earlier, no? We don't
and
talk
Dang,
about...
let me add one comment. Guess what? Lead by example. So if you want your children... I had to throw that in. It's called lip service. You heard the guy for the lip service? Lip service. So for you to just say that to people and say, "Oh, you do this and here you are smoking and drinking, and that's not going to work very well." So you got to lead by example.
Right. Yes, so, I agree.
True.
So basically, healthy habits today will become healthy tomorrows, right?
Yes.
You've heard this before, right? This is not a new concept, right?
I agree.
Mommy Babylin, before you ask your next question, can I just add this? We go back to dementia. Somebody online is asking Doc Seth, if a relative or ancestor has had dementia, is the probability of the person with autism having it too increase?
Well, it actually depends on how old the person was that did get dementia. So the typical dementia, I'll use Alzheimer's in particular, that's usually what's called late onset, older than 65, 75. So typical ones that are happenstance, that just happen irregularly, are not genetically or not family related, or late onset. However, those that do happen in someone that's in their 40s and 50s or maybe early 60s, in that younger age group, then perhaps that might be a little more higher risk to be a little concerned about. But by no means does it mean automatic at all. But it is the younger people that get it in your family that you might want to think about it. And there are tests. I mean, if you want to, we can talk about tests and all that. If we had time to talk about what tests could there be done on people that are risked to getting Alzheimer's or such.
Okay. Well, moving on, Mami Dang.
Yes.
So we talked earlier about just being happy, the diet, the exercise, the good sleep, So what practical things can we do at home to just simplify it even more, Doc? What can you suggest?
Lead by example.
Aside from lead by example,
Yeah, I'm curious. I hate to turn the question back to you, but I'm curious about this because again, does Manila itself or the Philippine government, do they have a wellness health promotion aspect for your society? Is your society, is there something coming from the top of your society that does it? And the reason I'm asking that, because I in the United States, I'm not using the United States as like the ivory tower and look at the United States. Hardly, I'm really not. But they do have, our government does have through what's called the CDC, it's called the Healthy Brain Initiative. And the Healthy Brain Initiative sets out standards at which they go out to the community. How should they eat? I mean, just kind of the question you're asking, what should they do? Because people don't know what they don't really know. But there are certain standards that I would say that are responsible for the people that help support us in our communities and our countries and our states and cities that do that. And that's really, it is freedom of choice. We can always not follow those standards, but there are certain standards that are relatively similar from country to country to country of exactly what exactly the food, the best food to eat, what exactly the right kind of exercise to do, what kind of sleep patterns would be best for you, what kind of social situations would be better or best for you to do. And of course, we're always the choice. We don't always have to follow these leads, but there honestly is no shortage. There's really no shortage of data and suggestions, whether it's in the Philippines or anywhere else, for everyone on this listening in to find out what can you really do. And it's habits. A lot of it is really just healthy habits. Habits. So, your habit of what you eat, is this what you like to do? And if you're really sincere and serious about aging your brain or watching out for concerns of yourself and the people you care for with autism, it's really following these leads. So it's just habits of getting healthy habits, your diet, your exercise, and things like that, and do it and start small. I mean, I think many things is what would we all do to kind of be successful in change our diet and our eating habits and sleeping habits is smart, or exercise habits. It starts small. The things that don't work very well in all habits is you say, oh, I'm going to do hours of this and hours of that, and I'm going to really get into it. That usually doesn't work very well. Start small. Prove to yourself you can conquer and solve. I can do this a little bit now. Let me build upon that.
Maybe, Mommy Babylin, we can include healthy habits, like during the family support group, no? So because sometimes it's skipped, no? Because they
But those are very practical tips, Doc. We really appreciate it because sometimes people think that aging well is all about medicine, but
No.
for something to look forward to,
No.
having people around you, being happy all the time. I think those are really important, and I still believe in this, Doc.
But Babylin, what I would say though is aging well, people definitely should health and well promotion. So blood pressure control. Now, I would say if you're looking at health issues beside diet and exercise, if someone has elevated high blood pressure, elevated sugar, elevated cholesterol, and they smoke, definitely those factors really need to be medically looked at. Diabetes, those things really need to be medically treated, because the number one medical problem that really leads to a bad brain or aging brain, including stroke care, which is, I'm also a stroke physician, is high blood pressure. So if someone has high blood pressure, even though they exercise, which is obviously I'm stating clearly that's important, high blood pressure is one of the main factors that probably contributes to an aging brain and even dementia. There's something called vascular dementia that also can contribute to the aging brain pathology or disease. So definitely getting your health and wellness checked with your healthcare provider on a regular basis is very vitally important.
Definitely.
Yes, I have to confess, when Gio
confession.
And when Gio was in his early 20s, and we visited Dr. Alexis Reyes, his doctor, and then doctor said that, you should already give Gio the annual physical exam, and I was I never thought of that for Gio, because maybe for me it's always been a young one, a child, if I'm, so it's time. He should be getting that. Okay, so that
the real age, Mami Dang. We forget the real age that they did that already.
Yes, right. No, so Doc, the next question I think came from many of our viewers, and it comes from the heart. So, because many of our parents are growing older too. Look at me. Some are already senior citizens. I am in my 70s, and quietly we're asking ourselves, no, what will happen to my son or daughter when I'm no longer around? How can families begin preparing for the future without becoming overwhelmed by fear?
Definitely. I mean, it's a reality. I mean, I'm not going to, lie about some of the concerns. It is a realistic concern that certainly families who have someone with a developmental disability, including autism, where they've supporting them from day one of their lives, and they're worried. They're worried about them being by themselves without that level of support. But I'm going to really go back to the reality of community supports. And going back to the concept that it seems to be very indelible and rich to the Filipino culture of connectivity and community and family. And again, who am I to really say what society in the Filipino society should be as one getting older? Wouldn't that be the same thing, that you're actually, as you're going older and you need more help, reaching out and getting more support from your community? And I would think that would be the way I'd be looking at it, not saying that you're going to put a so-called burden on another person. It's the richness inherent within the culture anyway, and that would be the case. I mean, the United States, and again, I'll just be some truth for how I look at the United States. We're very siloed, and we're very, yes, we're multinational, multicultural around the United States, but I think there's a high chance that if you're getting older, you need more care. I would say you're quick to go into a nursing home or long-term care facility, but it does. There is something like that where we are like, where are they going to go? We don't have a place to go. We have I'll say a cottage industry in the United States where there's many long-term care facilities to take care of our seniors and loved ones because, we can't care them at home. We don't have the wherewithal to care them at home. And that is a difficult situation. And it's really called aging in place. Aging in place, the concept that we're getting older, we just build supports around us when we get older. And certainly when the family members themselves, like you're describing, the mom and dad and such, are getting older, they need help. So who is going to help them? Who's going to help them? And I definitely know, and I know this for a fact, there's definitely people that are, have autism who they themselves are doing very well, and they may not need much supports in their own right on how the type of autism they have. They themselves can become more and more of a caregiver for their aging parents. So I'm kind of flipping the table a little bit, or how it could be that someone with autism they can do a lot of things in their own right. They then will relate to the skills of changing to how that relates and supporting their family member. So the reality goes both directions.
Mm, uh, I'd like to ask some of the questions sent by our viewers way ahead before this show. I think you partially answered the question, but I think they'd like to hear your specific answer to this. So they're asking, should parents, I don't know if you should answer this, should parents expect siblings to eventually become caregivers?
And I
Second
wonder if I'm the right person that should answer that question.
yeah.
You ask your sibling that question. How about you ask them?
Yes, Mommy Babylin, what do you think? Should we expect our siblings?
In our culture, Mami Dang, that's usually how it is. Like the sibling will always know I have a sibling on the spectrum or with a disability. It will be my role to take care of my sibling when my parents are gone. I think that's very Filipino, and we appreciate that because they know there's an additional responsibility for them. No, but of course, when there will be a time that um, the siblings also need to have their own lives. And if there are better options here in the Philippines, that would also be something that some families can look forward to as an option. Like
Yes.
maybe that in homes, the way we're having homes for our elderlies, maybe if we can have something like that,
Right.
There's
would be an
yeah.
option
There's
for us.
I think
I
I
would,
know
that's how I feel.
I know of about two or three starting to provide uh, so-called group homes, but
Yeah.
maybe not established yet. No, but
Yes.
yeah, that's another question, Doctor Seth.
Yeah.
Whether or not we already have the group home, so the parents are asking: are there situations where supported living or group homes may be more appropriate than leaving them with family members, siblings? Are there any? or is
Well, let
it
me
just
just say, well, one of the things that I think is challenging, what causes difficulties of supporting dementia, which is really what it's all about. Why can't they just stay there? Why won't they just stay with their aging parents or siblings, and how it is? What
right?
often drives the biggest difficulty that happens in people that needs more and more supports, including possibly going into a group home or long-term care, is behavior. So one of the difficulties in a lot of people, or a decent percentage of people that do develop a dementia type of a dementia, is not just memory and being forgetful or not be able to function in some way. It's actually challenging behaviors, aggressive behavior, or wandering, or having what's called sundowning, where when it gets late, they become more confused or argumentative. And it's really the behavior problems, honestly, which are the more difficult situations that help and cause these problems. And that's really the driving thing that I get most of my calls from many of my family members or caregivers. It's not about their being forgetful. It's actually because John or Mary or such, who they might be supporting, is really becoming difficult behaviorally wise, and they're having a hard time coping or supporting them. And in many cases, they're looking for like a medical solution, like a medication or a
Yeah.
pill to calm them down. And I really go back to community and what support there could be to help make it so they can help their behaviors and challenges. It's called non-pharmacologic approaches, and understand what's triggering the behavior, what is making them agitated or upset, and that goes to the triggers or other factors that might be doing it to them, and recognizing what they are.
Oh, right. Doctor said that reminds me of a friend, no? There are 4 or 5 siblings, all adults, all singles. They can well take care of their 2 aging, really senior parents, but because they started being aggressive with each other, they were violent, and so they had to commit them to a senior home, not
Right.
just them. So that applies to our in our case. I think that's the answer. So the
Yeah,
situations that will lead us
yeah,
to find a home for them.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
tranquility. Yeah, it should be safe. It should be a very safe environment all around. And it's challenging. Like my mother, without me being too personal, my mother that I mentioned earlier had dementia, behavior problems, physical difficulties, got so difficult despite supports that
Mhm.
we tried to do for my own mother. And it was hard. So my mother did go into a long-term care facility. And it's basically heartbreaking, honestly, because and you feel guilty and you feel bad about it. Am I doing the right thing? Why am I doing this to them? And they might say, why are you doing it to me too? And it's sad. It really is. There's nothing simple about this difficult problem, because obviously the people that we love and support, it's hard because we don't have a perfect system. If we had a perfect system of bringing enough help and support in our home, it would be that simple. We would be doing it everywhere and anywhere. But the money is not there, and the educated support people we have, it doesn't exist in most situations. It's hard.
Yes, especially among Filipino families, we will be very guilty about that. But sometimes the situation
yeah,
may call it, no. And
yeah, definitely.
there's another question. I don't know if we should ask this with Dr. Seth. How should families begin having these conversations about whether to admit them to a group home, or whether the sibling should be taking care of them?
Well, let me just say this: for 35 years, I've been working in the neurodevelopmental field. I don't have a son or daughter that has a developmental disability, but and I treat adults 18 throughout the lifespan, and I've had many conversations with family members. And to me, what I see in a lot of people, that these conversations, I don't know if they're overt or implicit about their son and daughter, their sibling to someone with autism. It seemed implicit in many times that there's an understanding in some respect that as they get older, that person, your brother or sister, will then care for you. And I think, if anything, it would be a lifespan kind of discussion, and maybe it's a hard conversation for people to have about that, issue about that. But I think it's often a lifespan thing that I see, that people seem to say, oh yeah, I knew that I was going to be, helping the support, or my brother or sister with autism is going to move in with me. So I really think those conversations have to start really young. I really think they start young, because what happens difficult is we are really waiting until the other person, the brother or sister, is like already situated, they moved away, or they already have their own
Right.
definite level of independence. Then it's a harder situation to think about, because you're saying, oh my God, they're already settled. How could I dare ask them to support them? But the other part about it is to know about the level of community support, like a care facility, independent living, or rather a assisted living or long-term care, is to be aware what's available. And I think in many, I can't speak about Manila in particular, any parts of the Philippines, there's no shortage, at least where I live, in many places where I work and around the world that I know of, that they're aware of certain situations of homes or other availabilities and do research. You can visit, you can see them and talk to the people there and see exactly, is this the right place? Is this the right situation for me? And the money, and is there a financial aspect of how would I do this, and how would I transition them from where they're at now with me in my home to where they're going to go? And so there might be a process of how it may not be just like a light switch with all of a sudden one day the next are there. It might be a way of challenging or beginning to settle them, have them visit there, or have the people there talk to them about it. So it could be a transition that could settle it down and make it simpler to do that. But you should have time to think about it. But certainly when there's a dementia going on and there's behavioral challenges, it's really much better to at least think about these aspects rather than it became late and chaotic and in a crisis. None of this should ever be done in a crisis situation. Why? But so when you start, you got to be honest with yourself, honestly, at least thinking about it, and start doing some research.
Yes. Mami
Very good
Beverly.
advice, Doc. I agree. And Doc, after all these years of working with persons on the spectrum, especially the adults or the aging ones, what can give hope for family members when they think about their future? Let's talk about hope now.
Well, I think the thing about their future is they're going to live longer and be happy. I think that's the way I would look at it, and think the same thing as someone who's getting older. Are they going to continue to work? Well, they might retire. Is their interest in different aspects different than it used to be when they're younger? I don't think why anyone with autism would be any different. The only difference is that because they have autism, are they able to adapt as much? I'm using a stereotype in terms of autism. Can they adapt because their social skills or their personality skills or how they might relate to different aspects? So that might be differences when they age. Can they adapt the age-related change, normal age-related change? But definitely just think very productively and proactively that most people with autism, like anybody else, are going to age healthy and be happy and be well. And there's no reason not to think that way. There isn't anything inherent, as I was saying before, that, oh my God, autism, aging, that's not good. They're going to have a lot of problems. They have a lot of challenges. Yes, I might get older myself. I'd be worried about me caring for them. That's the truth. That's a reality. But most people with autism are like anybody else, like anybody else. And they can get, unfortunately, a lot of age-related changes and complications like anybody else. Like anyone else can get, I hate to say, sick and get medical problems. But dementia, and again, I'm a dementia specialist. I'm not trying to make light on dementia, but it is not an inevitability at all. It is not. And it's not something that, but again, you have to be careful on the change that happened with someone as they get older. And it might reflect a lot of things that maybe, maybe they're not sleeping well. Maybe they're on different medication or that's not good. Or maybe their social situation is differently. So there's factors that can go along with someone with autism, and maybe it could be rectified, or maybe there could be an adaptation given to them that might settle down whatever you're seeing, that might make it better. Maybe they got to get their hearing checked and now they got their hearing checked and they can see better. Maybe things are better for them as they're getting older. So there are factors that can actually be modified or rectified in all of us, including those with autism. And don't be fearful of it.
Okay.
Well, thank you. That's very beautiful. Thank you so much. Because sometimes the hope doesn't come from one big breakthrough. It comes from seeing people understand, accept, and include.
Yes, Doc.
Definitely.
And before I ask my next question, Doc, I just like to insert one more question from our live viewer. The question is, do persons on the spectrum regress when they get older?
They should definitely not regress. The only time you would regress, and regression, just if I would appreciate, maybe we're on the same term, is losing skills. So that you
Yeah.
really should, the only time that I've seen it in autism is actually like children. I've seen people like for Rett syndrome. If you've heard, I mean, may have heard the term a genetic syndrome called Rett syndrome, which definitely is associated with autism. They regress. But they're regressing when they're like a 3-year-old regression. But an adult definitely should not regress. If they regress and if they're losing skills that are pretty quick, that happen pretty quickly, that's really not dementia. There's some other factor that's going on that's tied to an illness or a sickness, but dementia in an adult would not regress in that quick way. But dementia, if you look at dementia over time, over a number of years, that is a slow regression. I mean, if you want to call it like that, they progressively become more difficult in their abilities, but they are regressing. Again, I don't want to confuse the term. They are regressing and they're losing the abilities, and that is a type. So dementia is a type of a regression in some capacity, but not in a typical way that you might think about in terms of a quick way of losing skills that most people think of regression.
I find the answer very interesting.
Well, semantics. I mean, I don't want to get caught in the semantics of it, but I'm trying to be succinct, actually.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense.
Yes. Doc, I'll go a little personal again, okay, for this question. You have spent many years walking alongside autistic adults and their families. What's one thing they have taught you about aging?
Oh, it's really what it is. What I'm learning, I'll just say this much. I don't own the memory bank on knowledge of everything. And so what I've learned in my 35 years as a neurologist, as a physician, that I'm really appreciating more about people with autism and their own abilities, who they are. I just came to understand a term recently called neuroaffirming care, and I certainly knew about neurodivergency and all that. So what I'm learning more is I'm being a lot more open-minded. I thought I'd been open-minded my whole life, but I'm really understanding more about respecting people with autism, of who they are as people and individuals. And I think that's something that I'm learning about more and more and more about it, about respecting people for who they are, and the system that we are in the healthcare system, that then people with autism may not be able to walk into our healthcare system and fit into our system. We have to almost adapt to them, the way they speak, the way they relate. So I think what I'm really trying to appreciate is really neuroaffirming care, respecting the individual, who they are in their own skin, and then we might have to adapt to them in as individuals because of autism. And so I think I'm learning a lot about that, and I'm very fortunate that I'm in a position of education and training. So what I do is, I'm doing a talk right now with you all. I'm actually doing a lot of education presentations to healthcare providers around the world, around the United States, about autism, and us in our healthcare system who are helping support with autism. We have to learn more. We have to learn more and respect with autism, because we're going to take care of them through young and through their aging. Now they're getting much older. So we definitely do a much better job in doing much better education and training for ourselves, and working directly with organizations like yours, and even certainly with people with autism, other developmental disabilities. We are doing that. We have to do it more and do a lot better with that.
I really, really like your perspective, Dr. Seth. Okay, go.
I like.
It's my heart. Where's my heart? I got my heart.
Yeah, that's nice. So, Doc, before we end, if you can leave just one message for the Filipino families watching today, what would you want them to remember about growing older on the autism spectrum?
Well, one thing I would say is that cherish it, that people are going to live longer and be healthy, and don't be fearful of it. But there are things we can do. Health and wellness is very rich and very important to think about. So if you care about worry about aging, well, there's things you can do about it. So take it seriously and start doing things for yourself and the people you support. So I would say that's the main messages about it.
I like that. I like that. Thank you so much. And Doc, I think my biggest takeaway today is aging is not something we should fear. It's something that we can prepare for with love, with support, and with hope.
Exactly.
Yes, truly a lifelong journey. Okay, so as we
Yeah.
prepare our children for school, for work, for independent living, we can also prepare them to grow older with dignity, And the
Exactly.
future is possible, and it starts today. Okay, Dr. Seth, thank you so much for sharing not only your expertise, but also your heart. Oh my God. Okay, so we know our viewers have learned so much from today's conversation, and we hope to, yes, but may we request you to talk about your forthcoming panel discussion that will be happening in the Philippines, although you will still be in New Jersey.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up. So I've been really connected to the Philippines, and there's a conference that's coming up really quick right there in Manila, and it's part of the organization Tough, which is really basically an organization that's been around for a lot of years toward unity for health. August 4th, 5th, and 6th, and they're showing it right there. So really for those, and it's an autism, and on the day of the 5th, the middle day, we specifically are doing a conference related to autism and developmental disabilities. And I myself will be part of that conference. I'll be on a Zoom call, and you're seeing right there a page that's taken about what we're doing. And it's really using an ability called Project Echo. Project Echo is a way that we around the world and other places can help give information to caregivers and those with developmental disabilities on how to support and care for someone with autism that we're going to be speaking about in our discussion right there. And it's going to be it's all about the Philippine system and the care system right there. We're going to have people there that are part of your network that are going to be involved at our conference. And I'm going to be fortunate to be a moderator from where I'm at here, probably sitting where I am right now, and be speaking with our colleagues from around the world and really leaning heavily into almost like what we talked about tonight, the Filipino culture. And it's not going to focus 100% on aging in the way we were talking about tonight, but in epilepsy and other complications and those with different syndromes. And we're going to be speaking about a person. I won't give it away. You have to go to the conference. We're going to be speaking so much about a loved one who has a developmental disability and has a condition that we're going to speak about with epilepsy in the Philippines. So really, I'm so thrilled, and I hope this will be not the last time, and I'm sure it won't. They'll be supporting the Philippines.
Dr. Seth, will that be online? Can our members
Yes.
watch the show free?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, it's actually yes. There is for that 1 hour for the whole conference is not free, but the 1 hour echo that we're doing that you just put up there, it is a free 1 hour.
Yeah, so we will post on ASP social media the link where they can watch it.
I'll send you the flyer.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, so bago po tayo magtapos, I will switch in Tagalog now. Ito muna ang ilang updates mula sa ating ASP family. So we have already started accepting participants to the Home Empowerment 2026 batch 2. So if you miss this, watch out for the next batch, okay? And also, we're still accepting those who would like to join the live auditions to get your scholarship for the RMA Voice Academy for our children on the spectrum, our performers on the spectrum. And I'm a bit hurrying. Okay, so congratulations to Autism Society Philippines, to all of us. No, we just got the Advocate for Equity Award during the National Council on Disability Awards recognition ceremony during the week of the National Disability Rights Week. Okay, so Babylin.
Yeah, congratulations indeed to Autism Society Philippines. Good job to all of you. Mami Dan, all of you, all of us, yes. And of course, yeah, mga ka-AOK, if you feel that this episode really helped you, please share. You know, for some families, it will make them feel that they're not alone, and one simple share can be a big thing for them. So please don't forget to share. Thank you so much.
At kung gusto nyo balikan ng episode na to, you want to watch it again and review Dr. Seth's answers, or you want to watch the other episodes, all are available on YouTube channel of the Autism Society Philippines. So we're also on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Okay? So, Mami Babylin, ang dami nating napag-usapan today with Dr. Seth around, no? Ano ang iuuwi mo sa kwentuhan natin?
Well, Mami Dan, truly, first of all, thanks to Dr. Seth and all his sharings to us. If there's anything that is really important for me that I really learned today, we don't fear aging. Instead, let's prepare for it. And
Exactly.
you're not
Here,
alone.
here.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
That's right.
There's I like Dr. Safi always focus on community, on bayanihan. So let's not forget we have the family, we have our community, and first of all, and we have our ASP. Thank you so much.
Yes. Ang ganda. Paghandaan. Hindi katakutan, mga ka-AOK, no? Gusto lang natin silang siguraduhin na saan man sila dalhin ng buhay, mararamdaman nilang may mga taong nagmamahal, umiintindi at naniniwala sa kanila. Okay? At yun naman talaga ang pangarap natin sa ASP, isang lipunan kung saan ang bawat taong nasa autism spectrum ay magpagkakataong mamuhay, maging bahagi ng komunidad at tumanda ng may dignidad, may respeto at may pagmamahal. So again, Dr. Seth, thank you very much. Mami Babylin, maraming salamat. And okay, hanggang sa susunod nating kwentuhan. Mga ka-AOK, tuloy lang tayo sa pagtanggap, pagkalinga, at pagkilos para sa isang, ready? Okay. AOK Pilipinas.